Cantor. I am the founder of a group called Innovators and Investors, and we meet monthly to come together and share ideas, perspectives on many topics, all of them involving business. And the group has been meeting now for probably close to 2.5 years. And Jim Berwick has joined our group several years ago and has been a major contributor to the success of the group. Our members are basically from Boston to Florida. Many of the members reside in the Philadelphia area. And each month, we somehow come up with new, wonderful topics to rally around. But every time we're committed to learning. Um, in May, Jim was kind enough to lead our most recent conversation. And I'd like to turn it over to Jim to just introduce himself and to kind of share a summary of what he had presented. So, Jim, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, Steve. Again, my name is Jim Berwick. I'm a lifelong resident of Philadelphia, born and raised in Philadelphia, went to Drexel University, where I majored in accounting and finance, spent about 10 years in public accounting with KPMG, left KPMG and went to Lennox, the tabletop company, ultimately was the CFO and helped sell that company into private equity. I've spent the last 15 years in private equity, building businesses and building brands and exiting companies, and now I'm spending a lot of time with innovators and investors. I put together a presentation for the group that showed where our $37 trillion of federal debt has come from and the current gap in federal spending. Federal spending is about $7 trillion, while revenue is about $5 trillion, creating a $2 trillion gap. So every year we're adding almost $2 trillion to the federal deficit. Our total interest on debt now exceeds defense spending. And the interest is likely to rise as interest rates will ultimately rise. So we're slowly being consumed by that amount of debt. The overarching observation is, how did we get here? We got here by making some dumb decisions. My recommendation is that we simply stop doing dumb stuff. And I'll give you some examples. We spent about $5 trillion on COVID, but at the end of the day, we have nothing to show for that $5 trillion. We spent about $4.5 trillion fighting wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, but again, we have nothing to show for that. We spent a couple of $1 trillion on the Great Recession. While we have these national emergencies, we've also been reducing taxes, the Bush tax cuts, the Tax Cut and Jobs Act. So we've been reducing taxes while addressing national emergencies. And so at the end of about a 20-year period, we've created a situation where we have $37 trillion in debt, and we don't have a bridge or a highway or a dam to show for all of that spending. And so how do we start working our way out of this? The gap is so large and the tax burden is already distributed so disproportionately on the top earners that it will be very difficult for us to grow our way out of this. But it's time now for our government to start making some of those tough decisions and build a path where we can at least cap the debt or cap the spending and allow the growth of this fabulous economy to begin lowering the debt as a percentage of the overall GDP. If we stop spending, increases, and it just allowed the economy to grow, in 20 years, the total debt would decline from its current level of about 120% of GDP to about 50% of GDP, a much more manageable number. And the reason this is so alarming is that at 120% of GDP, total national debt, if we had another legitimate national emergency, it's questionable whether we have the borrowing capacity to fund that emergency. So while we're going around making further commitments internationally, starting a war in Iran, um, uh, starting a war in Venezuela. We're not sure where Cuba is going to go. All of these commitments that we're making internationally, we're doing at a time when there's a limit to the total amount of spending that the government has. And we need to begin addressing lowering that debt as a percentage of GDP so that we can address the next real national emergency.
Well, Jim, your perspective was fascinating in our conversation, and I think for all of us that were fortunate enough to listen to your presentation for close to an hour last week, we all learned a lot, and I think we could have 10 more meetings continuing to listen to your not only your perspective, but really your sharing of objective facts. And you did an amazing job not turning into a political discussion, but rather a very educational and informative conversation. So thank you for not only your presentation, but for being such an amazing contributor to the success of innovators and investors. For those of you that are on boards, whether they be public or private companies, if you're in private equity or venture, if you're an angel investor, if you're involved in building, developing companies, and would like to become a part of innovators and investors, please reach out to me. We meet monthly, and we're always looking for others to join in on the conversation. So, Jim, thanks for being again a part of the group. Thanks for your comments today, and I look forward to hearing from those who may be interested in joining us. Thanks very much.
My pleasure. Thanks, Steve.